Opening the silence of your small dwelling is a shroud woven from isolation and the dust motes dancing in the meager light. Each morning, you trace the same ritual, the bitter coffee, the worn armchair, the view of a brick wall scarred by time. Your world has shrunk to these four walls, a self-imposed confinement since the city's judgment fell like an axe. They stripped the badge, the pension, the very air of purpose from your lungs, leaving you, Seth Corbin, with only the ghosts of what might have been. The disgrace clings to you like damp wool, a scent of failure that no amount of scrubbing can erase. You are a man unmoored, adrift in the quiet backwaters of a life you once commanded. You run a hand over the rough stubble on your jaw, the sound of the rasping hairs loud in the stillness. A framed commendation, long since turned to the wall, still casts a rectangular shadow on the faded wallpaper. It is a silent monument to a different man, a different life. You avoid its gaze, just as you avoid the memories of the case that devoured you whole, the one that ended everything. It was a phantom, that killer, a whisper in the dark that left only questions and shattered careers in its wake. The shrill clamor of the ancient rotary phone shatters the fragile peace, a jarring intrusion from the world you've meticulously walled off. You eye it warily, a relic of another era, much like yourself. It rings again, insistent, a tiny siren cutting through the quiet. Who still calls this number? Who still remembers Seth Corbin, the disgraced detective? Corbin, you grunt, your voice rough from disuse. A familiar voice, strained and hurried, crackles through the line. Seth. It's the patrol officer. I know you're not active anymore, but I didn't know who else to call. This is bad, Seth. Real bad. A knot tightens in your gut. The patrol officer, a young man you'd mentored years ago, always respected your instincts, even after your fall. His voice, usually steady, trembles with an edge of genuine fear. What is it, you demand, a flicker of the old urgency stirring within you? A body. At the International Bridge Toll Plaza at night. They found her. Just now. And, Seth. It's like the Ramsey case. Exactly like it. The world tilts. The coffee sloshes in your mug, forgotten. The Ramsey case. The phantom killer. Your breath hitches, a gasp caught in your throat. Female victim, mid-20s. No ID, but the ligature marks, Seth, and the positioning. It's artistic. Deliberate. And there's a small, carved wooden bird, nestled in her hand. A wren. A wren. A small, carved wooden wren. The signature. Your mind races, a flurry of images from crime scenes long buried flashing before your eyes. The meticulous cruelty, the precise placement, the small, symbolic token. I'm on my way, you state, the decision made before the words fully leave your mouth. No hesitation. The patrol officer's relief is palpable, even through the crackling line. You slam the receiver down, the sound echoing unnervingly. The dust motes still dance, but the shroud of isolation has been ripped away. The determination in your eyes is sharp, cutting through the weariness. The city's sprawl gives way to the desolate, windswept approach to the bridge. Headlights cut through the inky blackness, revealing the skeletal structure of the toll booths, now a chaotic tableau of flashing blue and red. You park a few blocks away, slipping past the uniformed officers who are still establishing the perimeter. A few recognize you, their eyes widening in surprise, then quickly dropping, a mix of pity and discomfort. You ignore them, your gaze fixed on the scene unfolding before you. The flashing lights paint the concrete in strobing crimson and cobalt. A cluster of officers, their faces grim under the harsh artificial glow, huddle near one of the booths. Yellow tape stretches tautly, delineating the sacred space of death. You approach, your footsteps crunching on loose gravel, each step a reluctant journey back into the nightmare. The patrol officer spots you, his young face pale. He nods, a silent acknowledgement, and gestures towards the center of the scene. Over here, Seth. You step under the tape, the boundary between your isolated world and this brutal reality. And then you see her. Her eyes are open, staring blankly at the indifferent night sky. Her dress, a simple summer frock, is undisturbed, save for a single, carefully cut tear near her throat. And there, stark against the pale skin of her neck, are the ligature marks, deep, precise, a pattern you know intimately. They are identical to the marks left on Evelyn Ramsey, and then Sarah Jensen, and then Mark O'Connell. Your gaze drops to her hand. Tucked gently into her open palm, perfectly centered, is a small, intricately carved wooden wren. Its tiny eyes seem to stare back at you, a silent, mocking testament. He never left. The phantom killer, the one who eluded your grasp, who destroyed your career, has returned. He merely waited. The tension in the air is thick, suffocating. This isn't just a new case, it's a direct challenge, a personal taunt from a ghost you failed to exorcise. And you, against all logic, feel a grim, fierce determination bloom in your chest. Your stomach lurch. She lies sprawled near the base of a concrete support column, her body arranged with a chilling precision that makes your stomach lurch. A single, crimson rose, its petals impossibly perfect, rests upon her chest. The stark white of her skin, the unnatural twist of her neck, the way her limbs are splayed just so, it all screams of forgotten language you once knew too well. You stand frozen, the yellow tape a flimsy barrier between your past and this brutal present. The wind, a phantom hand, tugs at your coat, urging you closer, or perhaps, warning you away. The scene is a tableau, meticulously crafted, designed to speak directly to you, or so it feels. A hand clamps onto your shoulder, firm but not aggressive. His gaze, usually a storm cloud, now holds a flicker of surprise, mixed with something akin to weary recognition. Corbin, the lead detective, states, his voice a low rasp against the wind's howl. "Didn't think I'd see you here?" He doesn't ask why you're here, he knows. He knows the phantom pull of certain crimes, especially when they echo the ones that break you. You offer no explanation, merely a curt nod, your eyes already sweeping the scene again, searching for the ghost of a pattern. The lead detective sighs, a puff of white vapor in the frigid air. Same signature, Seth. Almost identical. The arrangement, the rose. His voice trails off, heavy with unspoken implications. The words land like ice shards in your memory. The arrangement. The rose. You remember the victim from your last case, years ago, found in a forgotten corner of an abandoned factory, a single, blood-red rose clutched in her stiff fingers. The public had never known about the rose, a detail meticulously withheld, a signature only the killer and the lead investigators possessed. This was no coincidence. The patrol officer recognized her from local missing persons reports. Name's Eleanor Vance. He pauses, then adds, her family reported her missing 2 days ago. Last seen near the downtown district. You take a step closer to the tape, your gaze fixed on the rose. It's a different shade of red, a richer, deeper hue than the one from years past, but the symbolism, the precise placement, it's unmistakable. The killer you failed to catch, the one who stripped you of your badge and your reputation, was back. Or had never truly left, merely hibernated, waiting for the perfect moment to resurface. Any witnesses, you press, your mind already sifting through possibilities, reactivating dormant files in your internal archive. The lead detective shakes his head. Toll booth operator heard nothing, saw nothing unusual. Just the usual late-night traffic. Security cameras on the bridge are conveniently out of order for the past week, according to the bridge authority. A real blind spot. His frustration is palpable, a wrought edge to his voice. We've got nothing, Seth. No forced entry, no struggle, no clear cause of death yet, though the neck looks. He gestures vaguely towards the victim's twisted posture. Clean. Too clean. Too clean. Another echo. It was as if they had walked willingly to their end, then rendered utterly helpless before the final act. The time of death, you inquire, your gaze now sweeping over the distant lights of the city across the water, the same city that had once hailed you as a hero, then cast you out as a pariah. Forensics is still working on it. Early estimates put it sometime between midnight and 3 a.m., the lead detective confirms. The lack of blood, the pristine scene. It's like a stage set. A performance. He runs a hand over his tired face, his eyes meeting yours, a silent plea passing between old adversaries, now bound by an unseen thread. The brass wants answers, Seth. The similarities are too glaring to ignore. This is it. The hook. The lead detective, a man who once stood on the opposite side of the disciplinary hearing that ended your career, was now implicitly asking for your help. Or, at the very least, acknowledging that your unique, albeit tainted, insight was now desperately needed. The pride, the bitterness, the deep-seated weariness of the past years warred within you. You wanted to walk away, to retreat to the quiet solitude you had painstakingly built. Off. The lead detective hesitates, then leans in slightly, lowering his voice further. There was a note tucked into her pocket. Not a suicide note, not a ransom demand. Just a single word, scrawled on a small, folded piece of parchment. Begin. The single word, stark and chilling, reverberates in the cold air. Begin. Not the end. Not goodbye. But begin. It wasn't a conclusion, it was an initiation. A new chapter in a narrative you had desperately tried to close. You look at the victim, then at the lead detective's desperate eyes. The phantom killer had not just returned, he had invited you back into his deadly game. You could feel the pull, an undeniable current dragging you back into the treacherous depths you had sworn to abandon. The last vestiges of your peaceful life were already crumbling around you. The single word, stark and chilling, still reverberates in the cold air, a phantom echo against the groan of the wind. The crimson glow of brake lights recedes into the distance, carrying the indifferent world away, leaving you anchored to a nascent horror. Your breath plumes, a fragile ghost against the vast, indifferent sky. This isn't a random act, it's a deliberate pronouncement, a hand reaching from the past to grip your throat. The phantom killer, the one who tore your life apart, has returned, or perhaps, never truly departed the shadows. The desolation that has been your companion for years begins to recede, replaced by a clarity born of absolute necessity. You cannot stand by. You cannot pretend this is not happening, not when the echoes of the past scream so loudly. The city lights blur into streaks of amber and violet, a kaleidoscope of distractions you push through. The cramped apartment, your sanctuary of self-imposed exile, greets you with its familiar scent of stale coffee and forgotten paper. You don't pause to shed your coat, moving with a predator's focus to the stacked boxes in the corner, shrouded beneath a dust sheet. These are the remnants of your former life, the carefully catalogued ghosts of cases past, the meticulously preserved evidence from the one that broke you. Your fingers, calloused from years of gripping a pen and a badge, now tremble slightly as you tear away the sheet, revealing the worn cardboard beneath. The first box yields its treasures, manila folders brittle with age, crime scene photographs bleached by time but still potent in their stark imagery. You spread them across the scarred surface of your kitchen table, a canvas of suffering under the harsh beam of your desk lamp. The face of the victim from years ago stares up at you, forever young, forever lost. You trace the lines of the old reports, the familiar paragraphs of official analysis, searching for something you missed, something everyone missed. The initial investigation, the subsequent reviews, all dismissed the details you now scrutinize with an almost surgical intensity. The ligature marks on the throat, deemed consistent with common binding materials. The small, porcelain figurine placed delicately beside the body, dismissed as incidental. The air grows heavy with the past. Your phone feels heavy in your hand as you dial a number etched into your memory, a relic from your previous life. It rings twice, then a gruff voice answers. You shouldn't be calling this number, Seth. There's another one, you state, your voice low, stripped of pleasantries. The bridge. Too early for details. The voice is cautious, a colleague who once trusted you, perhaps still holds a sliver of that faith. Give me what you have, anything unofficial. Please. For old time's sake. You infuse the word with a weight of shared battles, of integrity eroded but not entirely lost. But you didn't hear it from me. Same MO. No forced entry. No struggle. Clean end. The calling card. A small, wooden bird, carved, placed next to her hand. A wooden bird. Not porcelain, but a carved object. And placed beside the victim, just like the figurine in your old case. The precise, almost reverent placement. Ligature marks, you press, your voice a rasp. Yeah. Odd. Not deep, but precise. Almost decorative, the way it was tied. Some kind of fine cord, almost like a jeweler's twine. Your gaze sweeps back to the old case files, your mind a lightning storm of connections. The incidental porcelain figurine. The common binding materials. Suddenly, the past snaps into focus, sharper, more terrifying. You pull out the close-up photographs of the old ligature marks. The faint, almost invisible impressions on the skin, dismissed as generic, now scream a distinct truth. Not rope, not wire, but a fine, almost silken cord, leaving a faint, almost decorative pattern. And the figurine, placed with a deliberate tilt of the head, a mirroring of the victim's final repose. A single, overlooked detail. A pattern of detail, spanning years. The killer didn't just return, they continued. The first case wasn't an anomaly, it was the beginning. The porcelain, the wood. The common materials, the fine twine. Not identical, but echoing. A variation on a theme, a subtle evolution of a signature. Your past failure crashes over you, a tidal wave of regret and fury. You missed it. Everyone missed it. The killer had been performing, perfecting, while you spiraled into disgrace. But now, the fog lifts. The begin wasn't just a taunt, it was a re-invitation to a dance with a phantom, a macabre waltz you now knew the steps to, even if you'd forgotten the rhythm. You are Seth Corbin, and the hunt has begun anew. The past snaps into focus, a mosaic of forgotten details suddenly coalescing into a grotesque tableau. The incidental porcelain figurine, dismissed by others as a macabre flourish, now pulses with meaning. The common binding materials, a phrase that once grated with its banality, now whispers of meticulous intent. You move to the scattered files, your fingers tracing the faded ink of reports from a decade past, then the crisp lines of the new case. The parallels are not merely striking, they are a taunt, a deliberate echo. The killer never left. A sharp knock rattles your door, pulling you from the labyrinth of your thoughts. It's an unusual hour for visitors. Caution, a long-dormant instinct, flares. You peer through the peephole. A young courier, his face obscured by the low light of the hallway, shifts impatiently, a small package held in his gloved hand. You open the door a crack, your body tense. Seth Corbin, he mumbles, his voice muffled by the collar of his jacket. You nod, taking the package. It's small, wrapped in plain brown paper, tied with twine. No return address. No sender. Sign here, he instructs, thrusting a digital pad at you. Your signature. Feels like a pact with the unknown. Inside, the twine is knotted with a peculiar precision, reminiscent of a sailor's knot, yet subtly different. You untie it slowly, your fingers sensing the tension. Beneath the paper, a small, lacquered wooden box rests, no larger than your palm. It feels ancient, smooth under your touch. You lift the lid. It is perfectly ovular, a deep, resonant gray, almost black when wet. But it is not the stone itself that steals your breath. And beneath the stone, a folded piece of parchment. You unfold the parchment. The script is elegant, deliberate, handwritten in sepia ink. It is a challenge. The bridge knows all crossings. Tonight. When the clock's long arm touches the midnight hour. No signature. No explanation. The bridge. Your mind races, cycling through every landmark, every forgotten detail of the old case. The bridge. It clicks. A place of transit, of leaving one land for another, a liminal space. A place you knew well, a place that held a small, almost forgotten clue in the periphery of your disgraced case. The clock on your wall ticks, each second a hammer blow against your resolve. Midnight. You have hours. Hours to second guess, to fear, to prepare. But hesitation is a luxury you cannot afford. This is a deliberate, personal invitation. The killer knows you. They are watching you. They want you to play their game. You grab your worn leather jacket, the weight of the river stone heavy in your pocket. Your vehicle cuts through the urban sprawl, the city lights blurring into streaks of neon. Finally, the skeletal structure of the International Bridge looms into view, a steel leviathan against the moonless sky. Its toll plaza, usually bustling with the transient energy of travelers, is eerily quiet at this hour. You park your vehicle in a deserted lane, the crunch of your tires on the gravel echoing unnervingly. Your eyes scan the plaza, searching for anything out of place. The rhythmic hum of the bridge cables above you is the only constant. Then, you notice it. A single, older toll booth, one of the few still manned during peak hours, stands slightly apart, its light flickering intermittently, casting a strobe-like effect on the ground around it. The light falters here. Approaching the booth, your breath hitches. It's another box, smaller than the first, wrapped in the same plain paper, tied with the identical, peculiar knot. Your hands tremble slightly as you retrieve it. This feels different. More immediate. You tear at the paper, your fingers clumsy with anticipation. Inside, not a stone, but a single, delicate porcelain shard. And beneath it, a photograph. It's an old photograph, faded at the edges, but undeniably clear. A picture of you, Seth Corbin, a decade younger, standing at a podium, the badge on your chest glinting under the flashbulbs, accepting an award for a salt case. They knew you. They had been watching you, perhaps for years, meticulously collecting these fragments of your past. The porcelain shard, the river stone, the photograph, each a carefully chosen piece in a twisted game only now truly beginning. The pressure in your chest is immense, a crushing weight of realization. The hunt has turned. You are not merely the hunter, you are the quarry, ensnared in a narrative meticulously crafted by another. You pass the automated booths, their silence profound, their vacant eyes of glass reflecting the distant, blurred city glow. A single, older toll booth, one of the few still standing in its original form, its window a grimy pane that seems to absorb light rather than reflect it. You approach the structure with a slow, deliberate cadence, your gaze sweeping over its weathered surfaces. Rust blooms like dark, dried bloodstains along the metal frame, and the concrete base is scarred with the passage of countless tires. A faint, acrid scent, like burnt rubber mixed with something metallic, clings to the air around it, subtle beneath the salt tang from the river. You stoop, your eyes scanning the ground, where the asphalt, usually smooth and worn, shows a fresh, jagged gouge near the barrier arm's pivot point. It's not deep, but recent, as if something heavy and sharp scraped against it with significant force. A jolt vibrates through your pocket. The screen glows, displaying the detective. You answer, your voice a low murmur against the wind. Corbin, the voice crackles, rough with fatigue. They've got a lead. A solid one, it seems. You press the phone closer, your gaze still fixed on the gouge. Oh. An attendant. Work the night shift at the bridge, specifically at one of the older, manual booths. Fits the timeline. He's got a history of gambling debts, a wife who left him, the works. Seems desperate enough. There's a note of finality in the detective's tone, a weariness that suggests relief at the prospect of a quick resolution. They're bringing him in. Why? You don't answer immediately. Your eyes drift from the fresh gouge to the barrier arm itself. It's a heavy steel beam, painted with alternating yellow and black stripes, currently raised. You remember the victim's car, its precise, almost clinical disappearance. An attendant, desperate for money, might be persuaded to look the other way, to facilitate a passage. But this gouge. You walk the perimeter of the booth, your movements slow, methodical. The concrete barrier separating the lane from the next is low, stained with oil and grime. You run your hand along its top, feeling the grit, then you notice it. They are spaced too widely for human handprints, too shallow for a vehicle's undercarriage. You crouch, pulling a small, powerful flashlight from your coat. Its beam cuts through the gloom, illuminating the minute details. The indentations are parallel, about 3 inches apart, and they seem to lead from the service road behind the booth, over the concrete barrier, and into the lane itself. They are not fresh, but neither are they ancient. A subtle residue, a fine, metallic dust, clings to the edges of the tiny channels. You touch it, rubbing it between your thumb and forefinger. It feels like pulverized concrete mixed with something else, something abrasive. Your gaze snaps to the ground again, near the pivot of the barrier arm. The jagged gouge. You kneel, examining it with meticulous care. It's a fresh scar, undeniable. But it's not from a car tire or a human boot. The shape is peculiar, a distinct, narrow curve, almost like the tip of a specialized tool. You compare it to the indentations on the barrier. A connection begins to forge in your mind. An attendant, however desperate, would likely raise the barrier. They wouldn't need to force it, or drag something heavy over the concrete partition. This suggests a different kind of entry, a deliberate bypassing of the system, rather than a complicit facilitation. The killer didn't just pass through. They breached it. They didn't rely on a compromised attendant, they exploited a vulnerability in the structure itself, in the overlooked blind spots of the system. A phantom killer, indeed. One who doesn't just claim lives but dissects systems, finding the cracks, the forgotten corners, to execute their grim designs. The tension tightens in your chest, a knot of grim determination. You are alone in this understanding, an isolated observer of a truth that the others are too eager to dismiss. The hunt, you realize, has only just begun. The concrete barrier, rough and pitted beneath your fingertips, feels cold, a blunt boundary against the chill night air. You trace a scar in its surface, a thin fissure webbed like old ice. Amber lights cast long, distorted shadows of the booths, painting the asphalt with stripes of artificial golden deep, impenetrable black. The wind, a restless spirit, carries the faint, metallic tang of exhaust and the distant, rhythmic clang of something unseen on the far side of the water. Your gaze drifts, sweeping over the ground, the discarded detritus of 1,000 fleeting journeys. A crumpled receipt, a flattened plastic bottle, a glint of shattered glass. Nothing. Or rather, everything, a chaotic symphony of the inconsequential. Yet, your mind, a relentless sorting machine, seeks the discord, the single wrong note in the cacophony. Standard procedure. No anomalies. Just another unfortunate incident. The dismissive cadence chafes, a burr beneath your skin. They see a single, isolated event. You see the shadow of a pattern, a ghost in the machine that has haunted you for years. You pivot slowly, your boots grinding faintly on scattered grit. The toll booth, now empty, stands like a skeletal sentry. Its windows reflect the plaza's glare, a distorted kaleidoscope of light. You step closer, drawn by an instinct you've learned to trust more than any official report. Your eyes scan the ground around the booth space, where the concrete meets the raised curb. Here, the wind cannot scour as thoroughly, leaving behind the more stubborn fragments of human transit. And there, nestled against a forgotten cigarette butt, something catches the light. Not glass, not metal. It's a slender, black strip, almost invisible against the asphalt. You bend, your movements precise, unhurried. It's a zip tie. A common, industrial-grade cable tie, the kind used to bundle wires, secure equipment, or perhaps restrain. But it's not just any zip tie. This one is thick, whiter than standard, made of a specific polymer that feels unusually rigid. And as your thumb brushes its surface, you feel the faint, raised insignia, a small, almost imperceptible symbol, a stylized M within a circle, etched into the plastic. This is it. The M. The memory claws its way from the deep, dusty archives of your mind, vibrant and sharp despite the years. The old case. The one that splintered your career, leaving you adrift. The victim, found at the abandoned factory, bound with meticulous precision. The restraints. Everyone had called them standard cable ties, another detail swallowed by the larger horror. But you, in your obsessive, solitary review of the evidence, had fixated on them. You remembered noting the unusual width, the specific rigidity, the faint, almost invisible manufacturer's mark. You'd even tried to trace it, a futile effort at the time, dismissed as over-analysis by your superiors. Seth, it's just a zip tie. Not a fingerprint. But it was a fingerprint. A signature. Your vision narrows, focusing inward, past the glaring lights and the distant rumble. You see the victim from the old case, then the description of the new victim, their positions, the methods. The details, once disparate, now begin to coalesce, forming an undeniable, horrific pattern. The M wasn't just a manufacturer's mark. It was a brand. A specific type of high-tensile, weather-resistant polymer tie, often used in marine applications, or for securing heavy-duty electrical conduits in harsh environments. Not something you'd find in a typical hardware store. Something specialized. The locations. This toll plaza, a nexus of steel and concrete and relentless machinery. And the previous victim, years before your case, the one that had been written off as a tragic accident, found near the old dockyards, tangled in discarded netting. The initial report, a dusty fragment you'd once dismissed as tangential, mentioned peculiar bindings. Strong, black. The killer wasn't choosing random locations. They were choosing specific types of locations. And they were using tools, materials, that belonged in those environments. The M wasn't merely a detail, it was a professional calling card. It spoke of familiarity with industrial materials, with places where such items were commonplace. It wasn't just a killer, it was someone with a specific background, a specific knowledge base, operating within a specific, brutal logic. The pieces slammed together with the force of a physical blow. The meticulousness of the restraints, the specific type of tie, the industrial settings. It's not just a serial killer, it's a craftsman of death. Someone who understood the properties of materials, who worked with their hands, perhaps in a trade that required precision and strength. This isn't a phantom. This is someone real, someone rooted in a tangible world, a world of steel and concrete and specialized equipment. Someone whose signature has been staring everyone in the face for decades, dismissed as mere detritus. You missed it then. You won't miss it now. The killer hasn't just returned. They never left. They've been here all along, leaving their mark, waiting for someone to finally see the pattern in the debris. The hum of the highway, a distant, mechanical breath, pulls you forward. Each mile marker a silent accusation, each turn of the wheel a testament to a resolve you thought long extinguished. The cold logic of the killer's choice had resonated with a chilling clarity, not just places of death, but points of passage, of calculated ingress and egress. Bridges, toll booths, industrial arteries, the veins of a city, where transactions are swift and faces are fleeting. It calls to you, a magnetic north on your internal compass of shadows. You arrive with the city's late-hour pulse thrumming beneath your tires, leaving your vehicle concealed amongst the heavy haul trucks in a dimly lit lot a quarter-mile back. Headlights bloom and fade in your peripheral vision, painting transient streaks across the asphalt. Ahead, the toll plaza glows with an artificial, stark brilliance, a sentinel array of yellow and white lamps against the vast, indifferent canvas of the night sky. Each booth, a glass cage, holds its attendant, a silent observer in a world of hurried transactions. Your target, a figure known only as the overseer in the fragmented intel you've painstakingly assembled, is said to frequent this precise nexus. The wind whips at your coat, tugging at the frayed edges of your composure. You find a vantage point, tucked behind a concrete barrier, partially obscured by a stack of dormant traffic cones, where the toll lanes spread before you like an illuminated fan. The rhythm of the plaza is hypnotic, the distant clatter of coins, the electronic beep of transponders, the low growl of engines accelerating into the night. Your gaze sweeps across the procession of vehicles, each one a potential carrier of secrets. The trucks, heavy with their silent cargo, rumble past. Sedans, their occupants' faceless blurs, zip through the express lanes. Your eyes, honed by years of surveillance, search for the specific anomaly, the discordant note in this symphony of transit. Then, you see him. Not in a booth, but standing near the employee entrance of the plaza's administrative building, a nondescript structure tucked away from the main thoroughfare. He is a man of average height, unremarkable in every way save for the way he holds himself, an unnatural stillness, an almost predatory patience. He isn't working, he's waiting. It slows more than necessary, its brake lights flaring crimson. The overseer, until now a statue, stirs. He walks with a deliberate, unhurried pace towards the sedan, not directly to the booth, but to the small space between the booth and the concrete divider. The toll attendant, a young woman, seems to avert her gaze, her movements stiff. The driver of the sedan, a silhouette against the interior light, lowers their window only an inch or two. You strain to hear, to see, to grasp the fleeting exchange. The overseer leans in, his face obscured by the angle. Your heart, a drum against your ribs, quickens its beat. You see it then, a brief flicker of movement. It looks like a thumb drive, perhaps, or a tightly folded slip of paper. The driver's hand, gloved, makes no move to acknowledge it, merely closing the window with a soft whir. The sedan pulls away, vanishing into the luminous maw of the bridge. The overseer straightens, his head lifting slightly. His eyes, even from this distance, seem to sweep the perimeter, a casual yet unnervingly thorough survey. Your breath catches. You feel a prickling sensation on your skin, the instinctual warning of a predator sensing another. Had he seen you? He pauses, just for a beat too long, his gaze lingering on the area where you are hidden. His head tilts, almost imperceptibly, as if listening to a frequency only he can discern. Your pulse hammers, a frantic rhythm in your ears. You hold your breath, forcing your body into absolute stillness, a stone among stones. Just as the tension threatens to snap, a large cargo truck, its engine roaring like a beast, rumbles into the lane closest to your hiding spot, temporarily eclipsing your position from the overseer's line of sight. It's a momentary reprieve, a gift of timing. You seize it. Leaning against a cold metal fender, you draw a ragged breath, the night air burning in your lungs. He hadn't seen you, not definitively. But he had felt something. A tremor in the force, a disruption in the carefully orchestrated stillness of his world. The gloved hand. The averted gaze of the attendant. It wasn't just about the locations being symbolic, they were functional. These transit points were drop zones, nodes in a network. The killer wasn't a lone wolf, operating in isolation. They had help. The game has just become infinitely more complex, the web far more intricate than you had ever dared to imagine. And you, Seth Corbin, are now tangled deeper within its deadly threads. The cold logic of the killer's choice had resonated with a chilling clarity, not just places of death, but points of origin, points of departure, or points of no return. You trace the map in your mind, a constellation of forgotten tragedies. The factory floor where the first victim vanished, the abandoned dock where the second was found, the secluded warehouse where the third met their end. Each location screamed transition, a threshold crossed, a boundary breached. And then it clicks, a grim tumbler's lock in the chambers of your memory. Not just places, but moments. Moments tied to a specific date, a specific event, a shadow stretching across decades. The details, once murky, now sharpen into crystalline shards. The witness statements, the overlooked evidence, the hurried conclusions. The official narrative had been a neatly tied knot, but a loose thread always snagged at the edges. Your grip tightens on the steering wheel. The killer isn't just recreating the past, they're finishing it. Completing a cycle, perhaps, or exacting a final, delayed judgment. A crossing. Concrete pylons claw at the sky, supporting the steel skeleton that spans the churning river below. The air here tastes of exhaust and the metallic tang of distant water. You slow your vehicle, merging into the queue of idling cars, each a solitary capsule in the night. Your eyes scan, dissecting the scene, the automated booths, the distant glow of the customs building, the uniformed attendant in the glass cubicle of the manual lane. A detail from the original case file, a footnote you had dismissed as irrelevant, a witness, a transit worker, had mentioned a particular vehicle, a beat-up sedan, crossing the bridge late on the night of the first disappearance. A vehicle that was never properly followed up, lost in the bureaucratic shuffle. It had seemed too tenuous then, too commonplace. But now, coupled with the killer's ritualistic choice of locations, it screams. You pull into a lane, the automatic barrier rising with a mechanical groan. Your gaze drifts to the manual lane beside you. Your breath catches. The sedan. Not the exact one from decades ago, perhaps, but its spectral echo. A vehicle that blends into the night, unassuming, unremarkable. The driver turns their head slightly as they accept their change. For a fleeting instant, the light catches their profile. A sharp jawline, a familiar set to the shoulders, a way they hold their head. No, it can't be. Not them. Your mind recoils, fighting the impossible connection. You pay your own toll, your fingers fumbling with the coins, your eyes still locked on the sedan. It pulls away, a ghost in the periphery, heading towards the bridge's ascent. The barrier lifts for you. You follow, a predator tracking its prey, or perhaps, a moth drawn to a destructive flame. The bridge stretches out, a ribbon of asphalt over the dark water. The sedan is just ahead, its taillights a pair of angry crimson eyes. You keep your distance, heart thrumming a discordant rhythm against your ribs. As the sedan reaches the midpoint of the span, it slows, then abruptly pulls over to the shoulder. A dangerous, inexplicable move. Your own vehicle coasts to a stop 100 feet behind it, engine idling, a low growl in the stillness. The driver's side door of the sedan opens. A figure emerges, silhouetted against the distant city lights. Not tall, but with a deliberate, unhurried gait. They walk to the railing, their back to you. They are not looking at the view, their posture suggests a vigil. You kill your engine. Each footfall on the asphalt is a declaration. As you draw closer, the figure turns, slowly, as if sensing your presence. And then you see them, truly see them. The one who found the first victim's abandoned vehicle. The one who gave a statement, offered condolences, and then faded into the background. Always there, always watching. A recognition, perhaps even an expectation. Their gaze, once deferential, now holds a stark, unwavering intensity. Seth Corbin, they say, their voice a low, gravelly rasp, carrying on the wind. You always were slow, weren't you, but persistent. A shame, really. The final piece of evidence slots into place with brutal precision. The supervisor had access. Access to the factory, to the docks, to the forgotten corners of the city. Access to information, to schedules, to the very fabric of the infrastructure you'd been navigating. The motive, then, crystallizes, the quiet, simmering rage of someone overlooked, someone dismissed, someone whose own truth had been ignored. And this bridge, this final crossing, was their chosen stage for your ultimate reckoning. You stare back, the truth a bitter taste on your tongue, the weight of decades of misdirection settling heavy on your shoulders. The phantom killer was no phantom at all. They were the one you never saw, hiding in plain sight. The city's pulse throbs beneath your wheels, a frantic rhythm urging you onward. Each street lamp that streaks past becomes a fleeting, yellow ghost. The engine whines, a desperate song against the night's cool hush, mirroring the urgent clamor within your own chest. The final piece of the puzzle, a brutal mosaic assembled from fragments of ruin and betrayal, now burns with an infernal clarity. The supervisor. The architect of this decade-spanning darkness, a phantom made flesh, hidden in plain sight, pulling the threads of this city's underbelly like a puppet master. You grip the steering wheel, knuckles white, the scent of stale coffee and desperation clinging to the upholstery. The destination is a whispered echo of your own deduction, a place where paths converge and diverge, where a final payment is exacted. It makes a grim, poetic sense. The supervisor, exacting their own toll. The approach to the plaza is a sudden, stark expanse of concrete and skeletal gantries, bathed in the harsh, anemic glow of overhead lights. The air, already thin with apprehension, seems to crackle with an unseen electricity. You slow, pulling into the far right lane, observing. The automated booths stand like silent sentinels, their screens blank, their gates raised in a temporary truce with the flow of late-night traffic. But one booth, near the center, is different. And there, beside it, a silhouette you know too well. Their posture is calm, almost serene, even amidst the desolate expanse. You watch as they lean against the sedan's door, speaking to someone inside, a voice carrying on the wind, too faint to discern. Your breath hitches. This is it. The culmination. The end of the hunt, or perhaps, the beginning of a different kind of ending. As you draw closer, the supervisor's words begin to coalesce from the wind-whipped air. There is a strange, almost lyrical quality to their voice, a calm that belies the horror of their actions. The crossing was a betrayal, they are saying, their voice low. Measured. A promise broken at this very threshold. They paid the toll, but the passage was denied. And I paid the price. You see the other figure now, slumped in the passenger seat of the sedan. He is bound, gagged, a final, desperate offering in the supervisor's grim ritual. This is the last victim, the final piece in a decades-long vendetta. You understand, don't you? The supervisor continues, not to the bound figure, but to the empty air, to the memory of their loss. Justice, Seth, is a debt. They knew you were here. They expected you. You step out from the cover of the pillar, your footsteps echoing sharply on the asphalt. "Supervisor," you say, your voice rough, strained. They turn, slowly, a faint, almost pitying smile gracing their lips. There is no surprise in their eyes, only a deep-seated weariness that seems to have settled there for years. "Took you long enough, Seth. I always knew you'd find your way back to this particular crossroads. It's where everything began, and where, for some of us, everything must end." The supervisor gestures to the bound figure in the car. He represents everything they took. The easy passage, the disregard for consequences, the profit reaped from another's despair. He was part of the operation that cost me everything, all those years ago. The one I couldn't stop, the one you couldn't stop. A sharp, metallic glint catches the light in their hand. It is held with an unnerving familiarity, a silent promise of the violence it has wrought before. This is where your family. Where they were lost, isn't it? The system failed. The men who ran this crossing, the ones who turned a blind eye for a cut, they condemned my life, Seth. I watched you fail. And then I rebuilt myself, piece by piece, within the very structure that betrayed me. Access, Seth. That's what I gained. Access to schedules, to routes, to the lives of those who profited from my suffering. They take a step towards you, the wrench held loosely at their side, yet radiating menace. Every victim was a link, a connection to that original sin. Every death, a payment exacted for the debt incurred here, at this very gate, where the promise of a new life was stolen from me. The wind whips around you, carrying the distant clang of metal from the bridge, a mournful dirge. You see the glint of determination in the supervisor's eyes, a resolve as unyielding as the steel girders above. This isn't just a confrontation, it's a final stand, a desperate attempt to complete a cycle of vengeance that has devoured decades. It ends now, you say, your voice firm, pushing past the tremor of adrenaline. The supervisor laughs, a dry, brittle sound that dissolves into the night. No, Seth. It ends when the debt is paid in full. And this one, they nod towards the bound figure, is the final installment. They move with a sudden, unexpected agility, not towards the car, but towards you. You duck, the wind of its passage stirring your hair, the raw, metallic scent of it filling your nostrils. The clang as it strikes the concrete pillar behind you is deafening, a brutal punctuation mark on the supervisor's unwavering resolve. You are caught in the eye of their storm, and the storm, you realize, has only just begun to rage. The clang as it strikes the reinforced concrete pillar beside you echoes, a sharp, metallic shriek that vibrates through the soles of your shoes. A spray of fine, gray dust bursts from the impact point, gritty and acrid in the cold air. The attacker, a hunched silhouette against the distant, shimmering glow of the bridge, stumbles slightly, the sheer momentum of the mist blow throwing them off balance for a split second. That sliver of hesitation is all you need. Years of instinct, buried under layers of regret and whiskey haze, surge to the surface with a primal roar. Your hand lashes out, not with a weapon, but with the brutal efficiency of trained muscle memory. You grab the arm, still clenching the heavy wrench, twisting with every ounce of your accumulated frustration and fury, aiming to disarm. A guttural grunt of surprise and fury tears from the attacker's throat. You wrestle for control, the cold steel of the wrench biting into your palm as you struggle to wrench it free. The air fills with the harsh rasp of breath, yours and theirs, mingling with the sharp scent of exhaust fumes and damp asphalt. Headlights from a distant approaching truck cut through the gloom, momentarily blinding, then receding, leaving grotesque shadows dancing wildly around you. Your muscles scream, protesting this sudden, brutal exertion, but a deeper well of anger fuels you. You slam their arm against the side of your car, the dull thud of flesh against metal a satisfying counterpoint to the rush in your ears. The wrench clatters, finally free, skittering across the concrete and coming to rest near a discarded toll ticket. Just as the tool leaves their grasp, the distant sirens, previously a faint, mournful wail, become a distinct, urgent shriek, growing louder with terrifying speed. The attacker's face, finally caught in the stark, unforgiving glare of a security light, twists into a mask of pure, unadulterated rage. Your breath hitches, caught in your throat like a burr. It's the desk sergeant, the one whose clipped reports had always felt just a little too precise, whose knowing nods had seemed a shade too understanding. The phantom was never a ghost, they were a shadow cast by the very structure you served, a wolf in the sheepfold. Their eyes, now stripped of their quiet deference, blaze with a fanatic glint, reflecting the flashing red and blue lights that are now painting the toll plaza in a macabre strobe. You always missed it. Corbin, they hiss, their voice raw, strained, barely audible above the screech of tires as a squad car skids to a halt just meters away. Always chasing the wrong specter. The real justice. It needed a steady hand. A true asterisk hand. Not yours. You were too blind, too caught up in your own demons to see what was right in front of you. I had to finish what you couldn't. Uniformed officers spill out of the vehicle, weapons drawn, their stern faces illuminated by the oscillating lights. The words, "I had to finish what you couldn't," hang in the air, a final, poisoned arrow aimed directly at your heart. The adrenaline drains from you, leaving behind a profound, bone-deep weariness. You lean against the cold metal of your car, the clang of the wrench still echoing in your bones, the desk sergeant's confession a bitter taste on your tongue. A colleague, one of the first responders, approaches you, their face etched with concern. "Seth. Are you all right?" You nod, but the movement feels stiff, unnatural. Your hands are scraped, knuckles raw, and a dull ache has begun to settle in your shoulder. You look at the desk sergeant, now being led away, their head held high, a strange, almost serene smile playing on their lips. They do not look back. The truth, stark and unforgiving, settles heavily in your chest. The very reports you read, the briefings you attended, were crafted by the hand that held the wrench. You push away from the car, your legs shaky but resolute. The case is closed. The killer is apprehended. Justice, in its messy, imperfect form, has been served. But the cost. The quiet hum of the bridge, the distant city lights, the lingering smell of ozone and exhaust, they are no longer just sensory details. They are the backdrop to the shattered remnants of your past, and the uncertain, heavy promise of your future. You are free, but the scars, you realize, will forever remain. The silence that follows the shuffling footsteps of the departing desk sergeant is not a bomb, but a vacuum. It presses in, filling the spaces where the shouts and the metallic ring of the wrench once reverberated. You trace the raw scrapes on your knuckles, the dull ache in your shoulder, a constant thrum beneath your skin. The air still carries the sharp, coppery tang of the confrontation, a scent that will forever adhere to the memory of this moment. You stand amidst the aftermath, the overturned chair, the scattered papers, the faint metallic gleam on the concrete floor, mute witnesses to the unraveling. Hours blur into a sequence of hushed voices and procedural movements. A senior commander, their face etched with a weary respect, approaches you. There are no handshakes, no backslapping congratulations, only a quiet nod. Seth, they say, their voice low, a gravelly whisper in the cavernous space. You saw what we missed. Your reputation, once shattered shards, begins to coalesce, not into its former polished form, but into something reforged, scarred yet stronger. The commander continues, outlining the cold, calculating logic of the desk sergeant's decades-long deception. The precise timing of the initial disappearances, the subtle misdirections in the early reports, the way the killer had woven themselves into the very fabric of the system designed to catch them. The revelation that the desk sergeant, the unassuming gatekeeper of records, had been the phantom all along, feeding on the very cases they ostensibly processed, sends a shiver down your spine. The meticulous planning, the series of murders spanning decades, all orchestrated from within, by someone you had once shared coffee with, exchanged pleasantries. It solidifies the truth: the killer had never left, they had merely changed their mask. You listen, not with triumph, but with a profound weariness. The weight of all those lost lives, the years of your own exile, the gnawing certainty that had driven you, it all converges into a single, heavy stone in your gut. You caught them, yes. You brought the truth to light. But the cost, the indelible mark etched upon your soul, is a permanent fixture. Later, much later, as the city exhales its final, tired breath and the first slivers of pre-dawn light begin to paint the eastern sky, you find yourself driving. The urge to escape the confines of the city, the walls that had held so much pain and discovery, is primal. The air here is sharper, carrying the tang of distant water and the faint scent of diesel. The occasional hum of an engine, the soft whir of a passing vehicle, are the only sounds breaking the vast quiet. You pull your vehicle to the side, away from the flow, and step out. You walk towards the edge of the plaza, gazing at the colossal span of the bridge, a steel artery connecting two lands, two different futures. You watch the occasional vehicle approach a toll booth, a brief flash of light, an exchange, then the swift departure into the unknown on the other side. Each car a story, each driver a destination. Your own destination feels less clear, yet strangely defined. The badge that once defined you is gone, the desk sergeant's insidious reign brought to an end by your own stubborn, solitary pursuit. The disgrace has been partially lifted, replaced by a quiet legend, a man who saw what others couldn't or wouldn't. The experience has carved new channels in your mind, sharpened your senses to the subtle currents beneath the surface of ordinary life. You are not the same Seth Corbin who walked away from the force years ago, haunted and broken. You turn from the bridge, the wind catching your hair, and head back towards your vehicle. The path ahead is unwritten, but for the first time in years, it feels like a path you choose, rather than one forced upon you. You are a solitary figure against the vast canvas of the night, carrying the scars of your past, yes, but also a quiet, fierce determination. The engine hums to life, a low growl of possibility. The road stretches out before you, an invitation to a new beginning, shaped by the indelible mark of what you have endured.